Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in for the Tell the Truth Own Your Identity docu-series. Today we have an interview with Tiffany. She's going to share a little bit about her story with us of identity and owning your truth. So without further ado, here is Tiffany. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Stallings, and I am a New Jersey-based educator, author, public speaker, and entrepreneur. I grew up in New Jersey, with mom, dad, and a little sister. I was raised, I was a stereotypical oldest child, raised to go to college, get a job, and, that's exactly what I did. However, there was just always something inside of me that always said, do something beyond the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And so I decided to pursue entrepreneurship. And for a while, I was very successful. I had the husband, the house, the children, the dog, the business, and that's who I identified as a successful type A, mom, wife that had it all. And then it all came crashing down where I lost it all one by one. And, I lost at the time, I lost who I was. I didn't know who I was without all of those things. And so I had to go on a journey, recapturing, who the essence of Tiffany was and, move forward from there.
Now, when you speak about just losing yourself and trying to have to re-navigate and find who you are, what did that look like for you?
It was a, very long, arduous, but it was a personal journey because, without being married, without having a house, without having a business, without having a career, I was stripped to the core of Tiffany. And, without all of those accoutrements, I didn't know who I was. And so it was a journey of self-reflection. Who is Tiffany without, these material things, without these titles? So it was a matter of, prayer, reaching out to, my network of friends, reconnecting with family who I disconnected with because I had been working 15-hour days. And it was just, is through that journey and through journaling and speaking with others who had gone through the same thing is when I rediscovered who I was. And that's a person with purpose and with drive. And, I was meant here to help and inspire others who may be, going through some turmoil.
Yes, I love that. You kind of use your story to help other women kind of learn about their own experiences. And I love that you mentioned just support and having a support system, because I think as Black women, we tend to, play the superwoman role of being a wife and a mom. And we kind of sometimes step back from taking care of ourselves. As you went through that journey, do you feel like self-care kind of played a role into kind of just your journey of just, being on your own, learning, who you are outside of everything else?
Yes, definitely self-care played a huge role in that. And I also mentioned that in a book that I eventually wrote because, I didn't take care of myself. I was just on the go, run. The thought of reaching out to someone for help, because at the time I remember being so embarrassed to reach out for help. I'm Tiffany, I don't I don't need anyone to help me. And I remember hiding underneath the covers, just being so ashamed and so embarrassed at the prospect that I needed help. So just, moving beyond that and reaching out for help, pursuing therapy, prayer, exercising, walking, eating right, all of that played a part in my self-discovery.
Yes. Come on to the therapy, because it's something that we all need. Going
Yes.
through therapy, was it something that you were open to, or was it to help? Because I know a lot of times some of us, like just in our community as a whole, in the Black community, therapy is kind of taboo. Was it something that you were open to experiencing?
Well, at first, absolutely not. I remember, reaching out to a good friend, and she was like, "You need to talk to someone." And I remember, I'm not crazy. I don't need to talk to someone. But going down to, reaching rock bottom, when I felt like I had exhausted, everything that I could have done on my own, is when I said, hey, maybe she's right. And I went. I remember being ashamed and embarrassed, calling like, hello, my name is Tiffany. I need to talk to someone. And, it was like first learning how to drive or first learning how to walk. Like I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but it was just such, I had such trepidation
Yeah.
saying and admitting I need help.
Yes.
But it's something I absolutely encourage every woman. We need help. We're not meant to travel this journey alone.
Exactly. We cannot carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And I love
No,
that. Love that you
absolutely
went to
not.
therapy and just being able to be vulnerable. What did
Yes.
you learn as far as like therapy? How did it help you throughout your journey as you kind of learned to navigate the waters after everything you went through?
Well, I think, especially for women like me, therapy gives us the opportunity to get an unbiased opinion of what we're going through, because your friends, they're your backbone, they're your supporters 100%. So, if I say, hey, I'm going to do this, you're going to get support. If I say I'm going to do that, you're going to get support. And, they love you, but it's not necessarily an unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
Your therapist is going to give you the raw truth, give you good ideas. And I say, especially for me with therapy, I learned how to treat myself with kindness,
Yeah.
which is something I didn't do previously. And that means, instead of saying I was a failure, I'm divorced, I lost my business, and I would beat myself up. But therapy allowed me to, again, instead of saying, negative things, saying, you had the opportunity to run your own business, you experienced a marriage, you have children. And so, it may sound simple, but just having someone, to tell you those things, allowed me to self-reflect and, look at things differently and more positively.
Yeah, absolutely. And self-reflecting, because I know you mentioned it earlier, how did that help you kind of see who you were outside of just, Tiffany the wife or Tiffany the mother or Tiffany the entrepreneur?
Yeah, self-reflection, it allows you to just be, and look at yourself outside of yourself. How do others see me? How do others view me? Are you respecting yourself? Are you loving yourself? Because they're only going to reflect how we treat ourselves. And that's what self-reflection did. Treat myself again with more kindness,
Yeah.
with more respect, taking care of myself. And then, I can be there 100% for others.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be full and whole within yourself before you can pour out to others. Throughout
Yes.
your experience, what is a couple of things that stuck with you till today? Like, what is something that you learned that helps you persevere as you go through life currently?
One thing that stuck with me was definitely unleashing the guilt. And that is, because I carried a lot of guilt. I felt so guilty. Hey, people looked up to me and I failed and I felt guilty about that. And, my children are now being raised in a single parent home. I felt guilty about that. And, no matter what went right, I just couldn't let go of the guilt. So, the years of therapy and the self-reflection allowed me to, let that heavy load go and release it and move forward and be the person I was meant to be. So that was definitely one thing. And the second thing is understanding why I went through what I went through. Because as people, as we suffer, as we go through these things that all of us go through, we question why am I going through these things? And it gave me purpose. I feel like I went through everything that I went through, being down to my literally last quarter, is because, there are millions of women out there that are, that need to be encouraged, that need to be motivated, that need to hear stories like this so they know they can move on. So again, unleashing the guilt and finding my purpose is what I learned throughout this journey.
Yes, I love that you speak about purpose. I feel like everything that we go through is to, utilize our message to help others. I know you spoke about your books. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about that and just, the journey that you share in that message.
Yeah. So again, a few years ago, I felt like I was on top of the world. I had everything. And in a few short years, I mean, when I say lost everything, I was stripped of everything of who I was. And so part of, coming back and bouncing back was journaling. And I had never been a journal person. I had never been that person that wrote in my book and, put it underneath my mattress. That was never me. But I just, as my journey of self-reflection, I started writing. And so those notes were meant to be just for me as part of my healing.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he was like, hey, you should write a book. And I remember I was like, A, I'm not an author. And, B, my story is not unique. Whatever I've gone through, there's women that have gone through this, a million times. No one would care. And he was like, no, but, I think it would be a good idea. And I remember going, get out of here. No one's going to read that. But it lit a spark. And I was like, well, maybe I should. So the book, I started writing what I had went through, but not only, it wasn't a tale of woe was me. It
Yeah.
was a tale of, look what I went through, and this is what I did to make it to the other side of that journey. And so the book is titled The Bounce Back Mindset, How to Bounce Back When Life Has Screwed You.
I love it.
Thank you. So that's where that book came about. And then I also have a children's book, and it's called Mommy Works Too Much.
Oh.
And so I had always wanted to write a children's book, but I just didn't know how. I didn't know the steps. I thought it was this long process, and it is a long process. But the book is titled after my daughters, The Adventures of Gigi and Mimi. And, it's about a mom who's an entrepreneur, and her children do not understand, why she works, late nights. They just don't understand her journey as an entrepreneur. So it's a book that moms and entrepreneurs or working moms anywhere can read to their children to, explain, why they do what they do. And, the feedback from the book was just phenomenal. I had mothers and women from all over the world reach out and say, hey, this book is great. I can relate to the title. And so, and all of that stemmed from everything I had gone through. If I had not gone through all of these things, if I had not, lost everything and, had to come back and find my purpose, I would have never have written those books. I wouldn't be here speaking to you now. I'd be in my office somewhere still working 15-hour days.
Yes.
So, it's all connected.
Yes, I think it's so beautiful that you can just utilize your own journey to kind of complement your purpose and use that. Do you feel like as you continue to walk in your purpose, how do you feel like your daughter kind of looks up to you? How you're an example for her?
I mean, both my daughters, again, I was so worried about the effects of, them, I guess, being in a broken home and, being, I guess, a statistic.
Yeah.
But, these girls are, so self-assured, hold their heads up.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter is a dancer. And she auditions for different roles, and she'll walk into the room and be the only brown girl in that room, and she has no shame. Her head is held high. She has extreme confidence, and I would like to think that them watching me, because our children, they watch us all the time. I think them watching me going through everything that I went through, it played a role, in how they come about.
Yes. So, because I know you spoke about how the writing and journaling was your healing. Was there other ways that you healed yourself other than like writing? Was it throughout putting your book in different ways that you have healed?
Yes. I mean, writing was definitely a part of it. And then one offset of that, which I, was not expecting, people would ask me to come speak. Hey, come speak about your book. And I remember, I would have friends and family members, they would mean well, but they would say, why are you sharing, such personal parts about your life? And and for a hot second, I would feel ashamed and embarrassed, like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't share this. But, a part of healing was, in fact, going out, telling my story, sharing, and having women say, I feel better, or now I have the courage to leave this terrible marriage that I'm in, or, I have the courage to share my story. And so, talking to other women, played a part in that as well, and part
Yeah.
of my healing.
So, for other women who are going through their own experiences, how do you feel like they can own their own story? How can they really become comfortable enough to be vulnerable to share it with others?
I think that's the key is you have to become vulnerable because I'm particularly, women that are used to carrying the load on themselves. I put a survey on Facebook the other day, and the question was, what's the hardest to say? And it was, I need help. I love you. I'm sorry. And I want to say out of the several hundred responses, 99% of the responses were women who said they had difficulty saying, I need help.
Wow.
And it was eye opening, but it was, it was so sad because, the women that I know, they're strong, they're accomplished, but the hardest thing for them to say is, I need help. So for, women that are, going through a storm, the biggest thing you can do is to reach out. And, I know there's so many women that say, I don't have family, I don't have a network, but you do, between, connections on social media, your job, even if it's reaching out to a therapist, there's someone you could reach out to and talk to. Don't carry that load alone. So be vulnerable. And the first thing is reach out for help and admit that you need help.
Absolutely. In your own journey, when you were able to say, I need help, was it something that was just comfortable for you? Or was it something that you kind of had to work yourself towards to be vulnerable enough to say that, I need the support that asking for the support that you need?
Right. No, it was not comfortable at all. No, it was definitely, it was like running a marathon. It was, uncomfortable. I was frightened. I was afraid. I was embarrassed. But if there was someone who I felt looked like me or had gone through what I had gone through and said, hey, it's okay, maybe it would have been a little easier. But no, it was something I definitely had to fight my way towards to say, I need help.
Yes, those are key words. Absolutely. Even in my own journey, it's hard to say that I need help because I'm so used to being independent, but just being able to be vulnerable enough to say that is admirable, especially on your part, just considering your journey. So are there any last things that you would like to share with the audience, or what you would like for them to take away from just this interview as a whole?
Yes, I would like, women to know that, we are meant to be here. If you wake up each day, that means there's a purpose and, there's a destiny that you need to fulfill. If you're going through a storm, you can, reach out, seek help. And if you've made it to the other side, then it is your duty to help the next woman and help pull them up. And I'd like to add that, I had success with my books and, I wanted to reach an even wider audience. And so I did so by doing a TEDx talk. And I remember when I applied, I wanted to talk about, the bounce back mindset, how to, make it through your troubles. And the producers, they said, well, that's good, but, we need something universal. What is something that everyone, across this globe can relate to? And that's when I came up with Unleash the Mom Guilt. And you don't have to necessarily be a mom. If you're a woman, you carry some type of guilt for, just being a woman. And so unleash the guilt. You're human. You have a right to be here. You have a right to be happy. You have a right to be successful, and you don't have to carry your load alone. And so that's what I would like to leave with the audience.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.
I'm sure that everyone, is able to be inspired by your story and just by your message. How could we stay in touch with you to connect with you and check out your book?
Okay, I'm on Amazon under Tiffany Stallings. I have 3 books actually: The Bounce Back Mindset, Mommy Works Too Much. And if there's a woman that wants to share her story, she would like to become an author. My 3rd book is Get Published: How I Became an Amazon Bestselling Author. Again, all of those can be found on Amazon. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Tiffany Stallings. And I hope to connect with all of you.
Yes, and I'll be sure to put the information in the descriptions. But thank you so much. And
Thank you so much for having me.